All Terrain Nation. I'm your host, David Boyd. And, there's the old co host over here. He's drinking coffee. He's full of energy. This is Mr. Tim Esterdahl, with publisher of Pickup Truck Plus. Always remember that, the plus part. SUV Talk. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. I thought I used the plus symbol, made it easy, but apparently it didn't.
Hey, man, we're dumb Americans. Come on, we don't know what that means anymore. Is that something for TikTok? What do I do with that?
Is that a hashtag? I don't look like a hashtag to me.
It's Kelly. A lot of my audience knows Kelly used to work for Verizon, and she had to deal with not customer service per se. She was more of the back end stuff, but she would every once in a while take phone calls where people would be like, what the old school people know what the pound sign means.
Right.
No, she would have people calling in going, the hashtag thing. And you're like, what are you talking about, man? Come on, get with the times. But yeah, it's a pound sign, people, and that's a plus symbol. So it is Saturday morning, and we are talking pickup trucks. And Tim, you've had an interesting couple of weeks of travel. You got to see the new Toyota. You just dropped a video where you're comparing everything, and you made me jealous. The FOMO is real on that Toyota trip because, well, I didn't get that invite, and that's the one all year long. There was two trucks I wanted to get invited to. Ford, which I got the invite for the Ranger, but I didn't get the Toyota one, so I'm totally jealous of you, buddy.
Yeah, I kind of jealous of myself. I was pretty hyped up to go, and kind of why the video was all over the place because I was really hyped up to just publish and experience it. And it's funny because people keep asking me like, what I don't like about it, and I'm really struggling not to. It's one of those. It's really rare. Usually, I find something, right? I'm a cranky old white guy. I find something, right? And in this case, Jill had an issue with the manual seat because she's 5 foot tall. She couldn't quite reach the pedals, but it's just the mechanism. It's just what happened. But I didn't have a problem manual seat. And automatic seat. Or powered seat, I should say. I just thought it was really, really good. And the thing is like there's a price point for everybody. People keep saying, "Oh, it's just too expensive. Good luck with this, whatever." And I'm like, you're looking at the highest number. Like they built a $30,000 Tacoma. Like, yes, does it all the bells and whistles? No, but like Sheldon was talking about, the chief engineer. He's like, I did the best I could in today's marketplace with mandatory safety equipment, mandatory this, mandatory that, mandatory this. Customers won't buy vehicles without powered windows. They just don't. He goes, I got you the cheapest price Tacoma I could. Now, is it perfect? No. Do people keep talking about the XtraCab? They want the back door to open. And Toyota says it's a safety issue, crash safety issue. I've been able to verify that with anybody, but it's probably an internal crash safety issue. Yeah. But it's not that bad. Like it really, I mean, you just pull the seat out a little and then you reach back there. And then I'm like, how often are you really getting back in there to get stuff? Like if it's a 2-seater and you're by yourself most of the time, not very often. I mean, even when you're overland camping, I mean, you may move that passenger seat forward out of the way and have access to stuff. But I don't know. It seems like it's a hot topic with people. And I don't always understand it because even in the crew cab, even my full-size crew cab trucks, I'm rarely in the back seats unless the kids are back there. I guess my snow brush, the world's greatest snow brush, which is why I own. I own the world's greatest snow brush. If you know that. I'm in love with this damn thing.
That's what your channel's known for, right? The snow brush,
right? Or my golf clubs, right? So okay, and the Tacoma, my golf clubs go to bed.
Mm.
Yeah,
I will say, Tim, the thing that I've seen, because me and you were able to see the Trail Hunter, and I have to say Hunter because I called it a Master in my video a couple times, and I still get all kinds of crap about that, which people don't realize.
We haven't driven it yet.
I know, no, but people don't realize when we get time with some of these vehicles, you might get 15 minutes, and you got to go, and yeah, sometimes I'm going to blubber up. It's just I'm an idiot with that. But the thing I've heard more people complain about is the 4-cylinder engine and the cost. And, the last time, what was it? 2016 was the last brand new Toyota Tacoma. So it's been quite a while. And yeah, they could have built a $19,000 entry level truck back then, but we don't live in those times anymore. And I'm boggled. I know you follow the forums, you follow all the Facebook pages like I do. And to see people complaining when the price sheet came out this week, it got snuck out of, I thought it was going to be cheaper. I thought it was going to be this and that. And you're like, guys, what do you only have to look at what the new Chevrolets cost, Colorado. They weren't going to be like, well, we're going to make ours $10,000 cheaper just because. No, there's a market value to these trucks, and they're going to stay in line with it.
I've been surprised how many people were like, well, Ford can do it with the Maverick. Why can't Toyota do it with a compact truck? I'm like, the Tacoma is not a compact truck.
Yeah, that's not that segment.
Midsize truck. And then another guy was complaining about the fuel economy, and it gets like a high of 26 in certain configurations in the highway. Most stuff's about low mid 20s, and I'm like, yeah, it's right there with the rest of the competition. He's like, well, we should be a lot better. Look at the Maverick again. I'm like, the Maverick is not a mid-sized truck. The Maverick is a compact truck, and the duty cycle for a compact truck is different than mid-sized truck. Duty cycle means what the customer's going to use it for, right? So the Tacoma 4-cylinder engine is used throughout Toyota's lineup, except for in Tacoma, they replace 54% of the parts. People are like, why do they do that? Well, because you're towing a lot more. You're hauling a lot more. The duty cycle is a lot different. So you're going to make these parts more robust. You're going to make them different. You're going to make them handle that wear and tear better, which means you're going to get less fuel economy. You can't have everything in there. And I'm a little mystified by that too. I was surprised at the pushback on that. And I don't know that people understand. This is a mid-sized truck market. It's a $40,000 to $50,000 truck. It's going to get low 20s. It's going to be smaller than a full size. It is not going to be, yes, you can get a full size in that realm for that money, but once you load up a full size to match what comes in the mid-size, you're $20,000 more. There is some price difference there. There really is. People don't buy them for this. People don't buy a mid-size truck or a full-size truck because they like the features better. They buy them because the size fits in the garage. I mean, those are huge buying reasons. Fits in the garage, easier to maneuver, easier for people to use than a full-size truck. So it's like I think there's a fundamental lack of understanding in the marketplace, and I'm going to criticize Toyota fans here for a minute, but it seems like it's more so with Toyota fans because they get locked in the brand and they don't look elsewhere. I remember when I bought my Tundra 2 years ago, people were just like, "Oh, look at this camera, this new backup camera, and this new big screen," and I'm like, "We've had that for years." Like the Tundra was just catching up to the rest of the competition, and people kept talking to me how cool these features were, and I'm like, but it's just catching up. So it's and if I found that time and time again, especially I have fans that stop by my house, and it always happens, but they're diehard Toyota fans, and they won't shop for anything else. They won't look at anything else. They only look what Toyota comes out with, and then they get mystified. And they're like, why can't I get a compact manual window Tacoma for $19,000? And I'm like, you're just not keeping up with what's going on. It's a customer that only buys one new truck a year or one new truck in a lifetime, doesn't shop for 20 years, and still thinks it's 1993. I had to say, I literally said that in my story. I literally said, look, guys, it's a 4-banger, but it's not 1993.
Yeah,
right?
It's not 96 horsepower.
Right. I mean, so it's 300 and whatever torque. But I had the sheets. My point with that, this whole comparison thing and thing was, I didn't give a crap about the torque numbers and the horsepower numbers. I talked a lot more about RPMs. When does that peak torque hit? You can give me a truck that's got 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, but if it doesn't hit till it gets the red line, it's useless. But if you give me a truck with lots of good 300, 400, maybe even 200 some torque, but it hits at less than 1,000 RPMs, it's going to feel like it's really fast. And so I'm like, that's why turbos win. Turbos don't win because of fuel economy. No. Turbos win on torque. Turbos, and then real world fuel economy, people are like, well, I had a guy's like, well, the Ford 5-liter V8 gets the same fuel economy as EcoBoost. I don't get it. I'm like, well, because you don't drive your EcoBoost right. It's like if you smash the gas off line in a small displacement turbo, you're not going to get good fuel economy.
Because it's working harder to get you the same point as the bigger engines. But overall highway speeds, you're going to win out on that stuff.
I've been it's a little flustered this week by some of the comments and things, but just because it's like I think it's definitely a Toyota thing where people don't in that brand, they don't look elsewhere. And it's so funny because people on the Toyota side will criticize the domestic buyers, the GM, Ford, and Ram buyers, for only buying the big three stuff and not like buying a better quality truck and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, you guys don't pay attention to anything they're doing. It's like I don't know, it's so mystifying.
Well, I did a little short video on the truck a couple days ago, and I had a guy because I called it, it's the king of mid-sized trucks, whether people like it or not, whether you're a Chevy fanboy, whatever. I can't help the sales prove that Toyota beats everybody else. It's not even close. This guy trying to argue with me, it's not the king of the truck because, it doesn't do this or that. And I was like, well, you could pick out any one particular brand's going to have one feature that maybe the other doesn't, that it does really well, they all have the same feature, but one does it better. But when you look at overall sales, Toyota owns this market. They could, I honestly think they could plop out a truck, a 1950s looking pickup truck, and people would freak out, and it's the next best thing. But if it didn't have a V6 in it, they would totally freak out about it. But I'm
Yeah.
the
Well,
Toyota guys, you know, it's cultish, like we'll say, because they are a core. They,
yeah.
you know, I don't
And
know if it's the
and don't get me wrong, I don't mind it. I mean, that's great to have
yeah,
a brand you
of
enjoy.
course.
I mean, great to follow a brand. I mean, I'm all about it. But no, there's nothing that really that my uncle said it to me, and he's right, and I've said it many times. And he reminded me because he just bought a Toyota Sienna, and he says, Toyota never innovates, but when they do is they cherry pick the best of somebody else and then make it better. And the engineers actually told me the same thing. Engineers told me, they're like, we don't really innovate. We just take what's out there and we just make it better. And they
They're
do.
the iPhone of truck brands is what they are, because Apple does the same thing.
Yeah,
Apple doesn't always, they're not first to market, but they see what people, let somebody else develop it and use all that cost to develop something, get it to market, you know, do all the PR to get it to market. Let them handle that. We'll just sit back and do what you do and make it better.
yeah, I think that is truly the case. The other thing I'd point out though, I think is interesting was in my sheet, and again I threw it all away because the video's live, but I looked at the 3.8 liter from Nissan, and it has pretty good torque numbers, but it comes at such a high RPM, and
Yes.
so I'm like, if you're driving, oh, you have a great chart there. If you're driving the Frontier, it's gonna feel like it's really slow. And yeah, so I would add the torque at torque pan when max torque hits. But like the V6, it's going to be really slow. And the thing that's interesting is the Ranger has the 2.7 V6 with 400 horsepower or 400 torque,
Mhm.
and the V6 or the four-cylinder Tundra hybrid has more torque. So, and the thing is that even the inline four, the iForce, the 317 horsepower or 317 foot-pound torque is faster getting the torque than the Ford Ranger is. So
Yeah.
even though you have two additional cylinders in the Ranger, it's not going to make it faster. It's almost like I look at the Ranger now and I think to myself, like, why did you guys do a V6? Because you don't have to. And an inline four is actually easier to build, and
Well,
it's easier to engineer because you're not going to have to worry about more cylinders, more timing, more issues with getting everything timed up with the transmission and drive modes and things like that.
Well, but you can look across all of these brands here on this chart, and you can understand why. Okay, Toyota, they already had this four-cylinder sort of in their arsenal of things they can work with. Frontier, the 3.8 is a newish engine for them, but it's just a derivative of their 4-liter they had. They just made it a little bit more environmentally friendly for emissions. Colorado, the 2.7's been in GM's lineup forever. The 2.7 for Ford, that's been in the lineup forever, as well as the 2.3. So they've made both those engines over a decade.
Mhm.
Jeep, the 3.6, once again, that's, you know,
Been out there for
it
years.
is what it is. And Ridgeline, you talk about Ridgeline. I don't even consider it a real truck, but I'm kidding, Honda people. I'm kidding. I do actually like the new Ridgeline. I didn't like the Gen 1, but I do like this one here. But you can look at the motor lineups and understand why. It's because, you know, to develop the new engine specifically for a midsize truck would be ridiculous anymore. The days of the 80s, you know, where they could just develop a little four-cylinder, you know, like the S10s.
Yep.
Oh, what was, I forget what four-cylinder they put in that. You could get a four-cylinder, you could get a 2.8 liter V6. And honestly, the four-cylinder probably had more power than the V6 did of its day, because they were weak. I want to say it was like a 2.4 or something four-cylinder. It was something tiny, but
Yeah.
uh,
I think it's like I keep telling people, and I'm going to beat this dead horse, but it's like, have you driven one of these new turbo trucks yet?
yeah.
Go drive one, because you're gonna everybody that does that always comes back to me like, wow, that's pretty good for a four-cylinder. And I'm like, it's a turbo. Like my grandfather went and bought a new Ford truck, and he was like, man, he goes, it's really fast. I said, yeah, and he goes, yeah, it's really good for that. I told him I want that little V6, and he gave me the little V6, and it's really quick. I said, it's turbos. He goes, it's got what on it? And I said, it's a twin turbo. That's why you get fast. Doesn't matter about the
Yeah.
V6. He's like, oh, well, how do I get better fuel economy? I'm like, you
The
just told me
turbos.
it's really fast. Well, guess what? And he's like, well, screw that. And the guy, he's like 90. And I'm like, well, all right, if you want to burn rubber on town, I'm not going to prevent you from doing that. But yeah, he's like, he's going to stoplight down Fort Collins just as fast as he can. And I'm like, you're 90. Like, you don't need to do burnouts anymore, Grandpa.
Well, look at so with the Ford Ranger, I have a Ranger Raptor on order, 405 horsepower, 430 foot-pounds of torque. That's fun and that's exciting to me because I always, when I buy a vehicle, I try to get the most horsepower I can. But if you look a decade ago, they had the exact same amount of horsepower in their 6.7 V8 in the full-size Raptor. Like,
Oh,
yeah. The little engines are getting so good. They're so efficient at what they do. Now I know there is the old talk of, well, turbos don't last, and that's all from the 80s. That's that 70s and 80s turbos that people just, for whatever reason, remember when the Japanese were doing it and doing it well. Then the big three decided they wanted to get into the turbo game and could not do it. Like, they were just awful engines when they did it. The Mustang at one time had their little version of a turbo that was just awful. And so I think the American buyers remember that, and they're still scared of turbos for some reason, even though everybody's been doing it forever, just that people didn't realize they're building them.
I had an argument with the guy, and he's like, well, turbos don't last. I'm like, it's been over a decade, man. We've been having turbos.
Yeah.
These are newer
I don't
turbos.
hear of a lot of EcoBoost failing because of the turbos.
Well, EcoBoost has been out since I think 12, 14 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we all have our brothers, cousins, sisters, husband's wife who had a turbo go out in their truck. But statistically, look across the entire lineup and how many they sell. Statistically, the odds of having a turbo go out are fairly low. I mean, it's you figure the Ford F Series, I don't know, it's like, oh my gosh, 1 million trucks a year, maybe more than that, of just that one truck lineup. So
yeah,
a lot of them. Remember the 5-cylinder? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
what was that? GM had the 5-cylinder?
GM had a 5-cylinder. The new Chevy Trax is a 3-cylinder. It's a 3-cylinder turbo, and it's really freaking good. It's really efficient.
And Nissan's doing that in their Rogue line. It's
I mean,
it's a 3-cylinder turbo.
And I've talked to engineers about it. They're like, I remember talking to GM engineers, like, why'd you go an inline 4 versus a V6? They looked at me like, why?
Yeah. Well,
more cylinders doesn't mean extra power. More cylinders just makes it more complex to build and have more.
It's all about weight savings, Tim, because these trucks have to get lighter and lighter and lighter. That's why every drivetrain part is about aluminum cast now, because they're trying to make these things so light. You lose cylinders, you do lose weight.
Right. And yeah, they just, I mean, a lot of these engineers now are just like, we don't, if they could get away with like a 3-cylinder in a truck, they would even do that. Because again, cylinders don't matter. It's how it's set up with the turbo, with the transmissions. Now 8-speed transmissions can handle more of that power output and get more power at the different shifting. You're not hunting for years.
Yeah. Yeah, so Chris here says Toyota, because they focus on quality, which is 100%. They do. They actually, people don't believe that, but Toyota, most manufacturers want 100,000 miles on parts. What Toyota is like 150, 200,000 is their ideal range for parts lasting. But it says, you're right. Some of these folks are out of touch with reality when it comes to the truck market, particularly midsize. Well, it's, Toyota, and of course we're talking midsize, but the Tundra does okay, but it's never, sales from the midsize have never really converted over to full size for some reason. And I think it's closer than ever, because I've done time in the Tundra. You've done a lot. You owned a Tundra. It does feel like they shrunk the interior down a little bit. And I think they're hoping that converts into sales of the full size truck a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that I think we can talk about some brands that want to position things differently and move people around different vehicles and stuff, but I think every brand is so unique in how they bring the vehicles out. They have the engineer in charge of that, the marketing team in charge of that vehicle. They don't care about the other vehicles. Like Toyota has the plant in San Antonio. They need to keep that plant going. Mm-hmm. The Tacoma is built in Mexico. They need to keep that plant going. So it's like they just want to give you whatever you want to buy. I've never subscribed to this idea that, like, for example, did Ford screw the Ranger up to get more F-50 sales? I mean, that's always an interesting topic out there, but no. No, I mean, Ford wants to sell as many Rangers as they can, many Ford F-50s they can. They don't want to. They don't want.
At the end of the day, they want stock prices and their investors to be happy. That's all they want.
Right now, I mean, Ford, like everybody else, is going to look at the math and say, "Hey, we're going to own. We're going to be in 5th place market. We're going to have 25% market share. Not even 25. We have 10% market share. We know that whether we redesign our truck or not, redesigns trucks don't just sell 14 times more with redesign. They sometimes do a little better. You're talking a couple percentage points here and there percentages. So you look at it as business, right? So if I'm going to redesign the Ranger and I know I'm not going to increase my sales because Tacoma owns the marketplace, but I'm going to have only 5 or 10% of the marketplace, then I'm going to set my budget accordingly.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
going to
and that's why Toyota's
accordingly.
able to offer manual transmissions and things that the other brands can't offer now, is because Ford is they can't take it at 5% loss. They can't take a hit on that with this truck. Where Toyota is selling over 200,000 a year, 5% to them is not what 5% is to the Ranger or the Colorado, right?
Well, yeah, and they have Toyota's got the budget. I guarantee you, Toyota had more budget for the Tacoma than they did the Tundra.
Oh, 100%.
And it's not a knock against the Tundra, but again, the Tundra needed to sell about 20,000 per quarter. It needs to sell about 100,000 a year, or whatever the numbers are. No, it's like 10,000 per month, so 30,000 per quarter, something like that. They just need to keep selling that. That plant in San Antonio builds about 200,000 vehicles a year. That's what it does. And so you have to split that between the Sequoia and the Tundra, and that's how you're going to build. Now, you could say, well, why don't they sell this and that and this and that? Well, again, looking at small percentages, looking at the heart of the market, the manual transmission in Tacoma is really interesting in that it's them and the Gladiator now that offers one. And I was talking to Toyota about it, and they said that the Tacoma manual transmission sells really well in the Northeast. Yeah, it's really an interesting comment, and I've been trying to get some fact checking on that, and I have been failing to get fact checking because sales numbers like that are impossible to get.
That's odd, because if I'm dealing with snow and ice, the last thing I want to deal with is shifting a transmission. Just my thought.
I know it just was a really interesting thing, and there was a big topic, and it happened at the event. So I didn't love the Toyota Tacoma launch event. It was really difficult to film. It really wasn't set up very well, in my opinion. I can't wait to get it in the house because I can do. We were talking off air. I didn't love the video we did put out. I think I can do a better job at home. I know what I want to shoot it with because I want to show more, but I just couldn't. These first time events are really tough for that. But
once you live with a vehicle for a week too, you get to know the vehicle.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is they had it was like 50-50 manual transmissions, automatic transmissions, which was really bizarre to me because typically, and even in the lineup, the best case scenario is 10 to 15% manual transmissions. And so I thought it was really weird that they did it that way. And I got to spend about 15 minutes in automatic transmission on an off-road course. That's that's all the amount of time I had. And I'm like, well, I wanted more time in that. The manual transmission to me is a cool offering. Some people are gonna like it, but what's weird about it is you only get it in SR5, TRD off-road, TRD sport. You can't get the XtraCab pre-runner and manual transmission, which I thought that was it was interesting because they offer it in just 3 out of 6 or 7 trims they have. If I got to add them up in my head, but it's not offered in every trim. But yet at the event, it was 50% manual transmissions. So it didn't. Their offering at the event didn't seem to match what the market will buy for that.
Well, maybe they're really trying to let the buying public know that, hey, we are offering the vehicle. And yeah, I mean, great looking vehicles. You and Jill both got to spend a lot of time with this vehicle. And overall though, what was something about this truck that you were hoping for that you didn't see, or what was something that you expect Toyota to do but you felt like, oh, it's just kind of, they just sort of tried but didn't get all the way there?
Let me think. You could say fuel economy. You could say I'm still hoping that the hybrid version gets an increase in fuel economy. It's not just more torque.
Right.
It'd be nice if one of these brands would just say, yeah, we're going to do that in that midsize truck. We're going to set up a hybrid for that. They tend to set up for just power delivery, which is frustrating. I think I'm usually first drive events. You're coming back a good feeling because you're seeing everything new and everything brand new and everything you're excited for, whatever. Which is it's tough to criticize after that, but I just felt like when I got in this truck, they fixed all the wrongs.
Yeah.
Seating,
how was seating with the drive? Because I know that's been one of your complaints and my complaints is, and we're neither one of us are tall people, and you still felt kind of crammed in this truck.
I think somebody said it once, the old generation is like sitting in a bathtub. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought to myself, like, yeah, Like your butt's lower than your legs, sometimes depending on your bathtub setup. This one is not. Like when I first got into it in Hawaii, when I first got it in the no, you can get the largest cab of the manual.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking the double cab off-road, double cab sport, and double cab SR5. I'm saying that this is their crew cab, the XtraCab smaller. So the XtraCab is smaller, double cab is bigger. This is how Toyota does things. Basically, extended cab versus crew cab is another way to say it. But yeah, once I got in it, I was like, it's so much better. It is the driving position is so much better. I thought the interior was so much better. I just thought the layout of everything was better. The screen looks. I was thinking about this. I did the midsize recap. The screen, and it just looks massive. That screen looks just massive.
And that's the small screen, though, right?
Small screen, but it doesn't look massive. Even the bigger screen doesn't look massive. The XtraCab gets a smaller screen. So I mean, they offer a smaller screen. They offer, I just you're getting criticized the XtraCab for not having the door. I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I think the customer who's going to buy this XtraCab is not going to care about the door. I think the internet's going to care about the door. I don't think the person buying is going to care about the door.
Yeah, but you say that, but I'm a person who deals with XtraCab like that every day in my Nissan, and I open that door every day to get stuff out of the back of that. Now I'm using mine for construction purposes, so I do put things back there in and out quite a bit. But I do open the cab of my truck up every day.
Well, let me ask you this: if that wasn't an option, would you find a workaround? Would you find a cover in the back? Would you find a deck cargo solution? Would you find
100%? There, we think about it. Before 97, 98, this was not even an option anyways. To what I think Nissan started doing that, and then everybody kind of jumped in with that, opening those up. No, you would work around it, but it is a nice convenience to have. Now, do I put people back there? No, I wouldn't.
Well, that's
put
the thing.
In the back.
The Tacoma doesn't have seats.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a two-seater.
I think for I see a lot of Toyotas on construction sites. So I mean, it's a popular truck for a reason. They're built to last, and that is one. I will say one thing that I could ding them on of like, hey, people will use. Don't look past that the general public. Oh, they're just going to use this truck as a daily commuter. No, 50 to 60% of these trucks will be on job sites. They will be on work sites, and fleet buying will love that truck because fleet buyers don't want a 4-door. They don't want a 4-seater truck. They want a 2-seater truck.
Right.
So definitely, I think fleet buyers are going to look at that. And if the first batch of those come out and then, construction crews, whatever, complain about it, it might hurt sales.
It might, but you have to think about too that Toyota doesn't give a crap about fleet. They have like 5% of their business is fleet sales. Like they really.
Yeah, but that's fleet sales that they know of.
Right, but I'm just saying,
right?
Sure, I'm just saying that with like for example, the Tundra, like the fleet, they don't do anything fleet. Like Toyota, it's not a big fleet company, and even
totally,
and they've even done things like Hertz and things where they've actually pulled back how many cars are going to sell Hertz and stuff because they don't want fleet sales.
Well, and that hurts resale value anyways. When you sell massive amounts to these rental companies, then they get flooded in the used market.
Right. I've seen it with Nissan.
yes. And, to Kia, a few of them have their brands.
Yeah,
but was this a sport that we're looking at? Let me bring it back up. Was this a sport trim?
That is an pre-runner, I think.
Okay. So I remember they were doing the color match dash and all that. What is this here to me, this Tacoma, and they've done it in their Tundra and all that. Where are you at with that? I always feel like in an accident, some person's face is going to have an imprint of that on their head,
You see the paramedic like, what truck were you driving? Well, let me see. There it is. Jill and I, so on the Tundra TRD Pro, Jill and I had an argument about this. So I don't like it. I like the Tacoma better than the Tundra because the Tacoma is like embedded. It's the Tundra. It feels like it's like
sharp edges.
Well, arts and crafts. Like you put the glue on the back of the letter, and it's like I just want to chisel it off. I didn't like it. I don't like it. I mean, it's not something that is appealing to me. Jill loved it. The engineering team loved it, and it just wasn't me. It's like why do I need to know I'm driving it in a Tacoma? Like why?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what I bought.
Yeah, like I'm just and
maybe it's for the past. Sales, Tim. It's PR, man. The passenger, you pick somebody up, a hitchhiker, and they're like, "Man, this is a nice truck. What kind is it?" Oh, it's a
Right,
Tacoma.
right.
Clearly,
No, it's the hitchhikers. It's what are you doing these days? When you call the service. Anyways, Lyft or you Lyft
yeah.
driver, you can tell what you're driving. Well, here's another part of this to me that this is old man-ish thing, but how do you clean that? Like, do you get that? Do you remember that? You ever seen the thing that the infomercial? It's a piece of slime.
Hmm.
Slime goes over it and it pulls all the dust out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that thing's gonna get covered in dust and debris, and you're just gonna spray a bunch of cleaner in there and let the cleaner bubble up and get the dirt out of there. Like,
Maybe
and I
that's on
and I
purpose.
know I know people don't care about. I don't care about how clean my truck is. I've never been that kind of guy. My neighbor washes this truck once a week. It's just ridiculous to me. But I will tell you, this next generation, and certain buyers really want to take care of their vehicles. And they really, I mean, I was on a Facebook group and I got blown apart because somebody was asking me the best way to wash his truck, and I'm like, you don't. And he was like, and I'm like, okay. So if I were to be that person who want to keep my truck perfect at all times, very, very clean, how do you clean that up?
Mhm. Well, I think
It's better.
for Tacoma, dude, it's the overland crowd. They don't want it. Dirt means legitimacy, right? So maybe Toyota's like, yeah, these people love it. There's
That's
crevices for dirt to get in.
right. That's what I think. I mean, that's what I think all the time. I mean, but yeah, this next generation and some of the older generation, it's a really sticking point. And I mean,
I took,
for me, it's piano black. That's my hate. I hate
yeah,
piano black keys because
I do
it
too.
looks
It
more
shows
luxury, but it
crashes.
always looks dirty.
Yeah, me and Kelly noticed that when we got to get into the Colorado, and they've got all that piano black finish around the shifter, right where your legs would be,
Mhm.
and jeans or whatever you're wearing is going to rub that, scratch it up, and it's just in a year you're going to be like, oh, this truck looks old.
Yeah, no,
You're going
it
to be
does. And I
feeling it.
remember I was doing a event with, I think I was doing a new Tahoe and Suburban, and talking to one of their designers, and they're like, "Oh, this piano black," and I'm like, "I hate it." And off camera, she goes, "Why? It always looks dirty." And she's
Yeah.
like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "It looks good to you right now, but give it time. It always looks dirty." But
I will
yeah,
take it over chrome, though. I will take it over chrome.
I know. I don't. I'd like more matte finishes in the trucks. Like, I just give me a matte finish. I don't need my truck to look more luxurious. Like,
Yeah. Well, you talking about cleaning vehicles. I did early on with a Bronco when I was in the Bronco, and you could see where all dirt was hiding all over the place.
mhm.
And I took so much heat going, man, this thing's gonna be a nightmare to clean. And you would have thought like the off-road crowd was just gonna rip me apart of like, oh, I mean, it's an off-road truck, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yeah, but 90% of the Jeeps that are driving around there, Wranglers, are just on the road. So there's people that just want to own them and keep them clean and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, this here, like the dash of this, I mean, I've seen it with the Tundra. It's relatively similar. Yeah, it's like all these harsh angles and stuff look great, but they just are a place to aggravate you when your truck looks dusty and dirty.
You speaking of that, and I kind of want to bring this up because I've seen this happen in a few different thumbnails and people talking about this stuff. Do you feel like the Tacoma is just a smaller baby Tundra?
I do. I
Do
do.
you?
And but I liked it. So I'm one of the few that actually like the design of the Tundra. I didn't when I first saw the Tundra last year, year before, I was like, oh man, it was such a design change. But it's one of those vehicles like I and this because they put weak tires on these things because Toyota's big about this. They've said it many times at these press events. We don't want to be dinged for the first 6 months ownership. You put a off-road tire on there and then people complain it's too noisy. Toyota's very aware and very careful not to do that. So they put weak tires on these things. But it's a design. Once you put an aggressive looking tire on it, it just comes together to me and it looks so tough. And I think that'll be the same way with this. As soon as you put a BF Goodrich KO style tire or a mud terrain tire, or the overland crowd gets this and starts doing some stuff with that, I think it's going to come together and look great.
You don't think the Trail Hunter has aggressive tires on it?
No, not at all. Those are awful.
Hmm.
As someone who off-roads quite a bit, those I would never put that tire on my truck.
Hmm. Interesting.
And honestly, even I do a lot with the Broncos. The Goodyears that came on the Broncos are awful.
Hmm.
So you know what it is? They put a light. So I know with the Bronco, they put a C-rated tire. It deserves a D or E-rated tire, but they put a C for a softer ride, and it's the same thing in this. I guarantee you, it's a very soft tire. All about comfort. They know Toyota knows, just like I know you've told me about Jeep saying, hey, we know as soon as that somebody buys the Gladiator or the Wrangler, they're going
Yeah.
right to the tire store. So
They,
they know.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, they know. I don't know. I've had pretty good luck with OEM tires on different vehicles. I just was interesting. I
Yeah.
don't see it as a baby Tundra. I think it's just I think there's so many things that are different as far as power delivery, size. I don't know. I guess I could see where people are saying that, where they have this similar interior design as far as the big screen and steering wheel, that kind of stuff. But it's so much different. It's such a different vehicle to me. But I'm still of the crowd that thinks trucks look different. We got to talk about the elephant in the room, the Cybertruck that came out this week.
Oh, I'm going to talk about that.
And it's interesting because the conversation has been what it is, and it's basically the size of a Jeep Gladiator on length. So it's as long as a Jeep Gladiator is, and so it's like it's to me it's more of a mid-sized truck than a full-size truck. There's some argument about that, but
I
those
don't feel like it grew. A lot of
it
times
went smaller.
midsize truck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
5%
a lot of times
smaller.
like you look at the Colorado, it just feels like a wide full
You're right.
size truck almost. Where I feel like Toyota was very aware. Let's not
Yeah.
expand.
Well, and my point here is that the reviews I've seen and the people I've talked to about Cybertruck, they don't care about styling. Styling doesn't matter. It's all about the specs and efficiency. They're all overwhelmed by the specs and efficiency. And so I'm like, and somebody said to me, they said you can take a Ford, a Ram, and a Chevy and cram them together, and you have basically all that looks the same. And I don't think that way. I think every truck looks different to me. And I think the Tundra looks different than the Tacoma. I think everything about them are two different vehicles. I don't see it as a baby Tundra. But I do
Well,
think it's interesting.
I think they. I mean, you can't get past the design, the cues, the headlights are relatively the same, except for I think they listened, and when people complained about the little headlight coming down, they kind of did away with that. And it's
Yeah.
a generational. It does look like the previous one a little bit. They did keep that. The grill looks very similar. The lights are different, but they still that stretched out light like they used in the previous generation. But the gaps and all the styling to me is all Tundra. Even the taillight looks exactly like a Tundra taillight.
And to me, if you flip this around and say the Tacoma came out first, you look at the Tundra and go, oh, it's a bigger Tacoma, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and I see the thing is, I don't think there's a problem with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't see it when I see them parked. I think when you see them parked next to each other, I think you'll see some more bigger differences. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have a problem with styling these days. I think the trucks are looking better and better, and they're looking more unique. Especially interiors look a lot more unique, and the exterior is looking more unique. And yes, there is a byproduct of the wind tunnel, right? So wind tunnel says you can only be this shape, right? And so you have to mold it in a certain shape. Then you start saying, well, people got to sit in the cabin. So now I got to make the roof a certain height. I mean, so there's some things you have to do. You need airflow for the turbos. Yes, folks, I've argued this 1,000 times. Turbos need airflow. The Jesus Christ, the conversation on this is just stupid. The Tacoma engine with a turbo has its dedicated own air inlet and has a dedicated own oil cooler.
Yeah,
To
you
keep
gotta
it
have
cool.
those turbos. They have a intercooler sitting up there that has to have
Right.
cool
I
air.
mean, the
Yeah.
whole idea here, and they have a bigger water inlet to run more water through. So the turbos love running hot, but they want cool
Well,
air.
and you're dealing with you got oil running through there, so you gotta
Right.
cool that. That's more for oil. Yeah, they need a lot
Yeah,
more
yeah.
air.
I mean, so you have to have a grill, and you have to have some inlets, some surrounds, and you have to have a bigger grill. Yeah, and they have to look different. And it's interesting because I think that there's a certain crowd that doesn't get into trucks, doesn't pay attention to trucks, whatever, and now thinks all trucks look the same, and they want something wildly different, which is why the Cybertruck came out, was to be wildly different. To have a completely different design, and again, their viewpoint, which I thought was fascinating, that style doesn't matter. And I tend to believe that style makes a big difference. Like the customers I talk to, they're like, "I'm going to go buy the most badass looking truck I can find in the marketplace," and they do. They go dealerships, they go online, they try to find the most badass looking one that they can find. So I don't understand this concept of saying that styling doesn't matter. Because if styling didn't matter, we'd all be driving minivans.
Yeah,
Minivans are
pretty much.
super efficient. They're super efficient. So styling doesn't matter. We'd all be driving. Do you remember the first gen Prius and the first gen Nissan Leaf
Mhm.
and how terrible those things looked? I mean, yeah, I mean, but the crowd there doesn't care about style. They just want efficiency. They want mile per gallon. They want, it's like it reminds me of the days back. Again, I live in the West, but they want the ugliest horse. They don't care about the ugly, they don't care what the horse looks like. They want the horse doesn't crap the most and can go as long as without water. Right? I mean, that's what they want.
How'd you ask the guy at the stable that one? I want the one that craps the least. Which one you got?
Right? I mean, I don't know. I just think to myself, like, it's so fascinating to watch this conversation unfold of, does what matters more? Does styling even matter? Or does performance matter? Or does price matter? I mean, RB's got a different viewpoint on this, and
I
it's
think prices.
fascinating.
I think in the day and age we live in now, where we've seen in the past 15 years, we've almost seen these trucks double in price. I think price. I mean, definitely people are attracted to style because who would want a Corvette that just looks like a sheet of paper? You know, people are attracted to sports cars for a reason. It's style, and people want a sporty looking truck. Or if they didn't, Toyota wouldn't build like the Trail Hunter here or the TRD Pro. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't design it. It's a waste of time for them. So styling, people want to. Vehicles are a reflection of who you see yourself. A lot of cases, and that's why the Overlander guy wants this truck, is because I'm an Overlander guy, even though 90% of them will never take their truck off pavement. They're just going to drive around with a rooftop tent around their neighborhood all the time. That
Right.
still, and it sounds like I'm shitting on that, but I'm not. I mean, if that's how you want to do, you have the money to do it, do it. So I think people want to see a reflection of them in their vehicle. So I think Toyota picks up on that very well. Out of all the brands, you remember Toyota FJ Summit.
Yeah.
Toyota now, I don't think they officially sponsored it, but they would definitely show up for it.
They finally
And
they really got involved last couple of years. They never were a
yeah,
sponsor to it, and then it was funny because I was talking to their PR team. They're like, yeah, we kind of own the market here, and we don't even pay attention to it."
yeah.
And they're like, maybe we need to do something else with this. I'm like, yeah, maybe you need to get sponsorship, get some money.
But
And do
I think overlanding became a big thing around 2008, 2009. And it coincides with social media. There's a lot of things of why the timing of people building their little model trucks, how they want to build them.
right, yeah,
And Toyota, for whatever reason, was the guy that benefited the most in midsize trucks. Now, they sold a ton of midsize trucks before that. Let's not act like they didn't, because you look at the numbers from them and Nissan in the early 90s. They were over 250,000 trucks a year in the United States. It's ridiculous. Their sales numbers are ridiculous for how many they used to sell. But for whatever reason, they've benefited from the crowd that wants to, aftermarket their vehicle. And like you said, they hardly paid attention to it. But I think this Trail Hunter is a reflection of they paid a lot of attention to it. They just didn't publicly say anything about it.
yeah. I just was doing something while you're talking because I thought it was pretty interesting. I was looking up inflation. So the current 2023 double cab TRD off road is starting price of 41.5.
Mhm.
A couple things here is that truck has more safety features built into it than the prior generation Tacoma, because Toyota mandated their TSS system go across all their vehicles, and they've added more to that. They've added more safety. They've added more the turbo. They've added the engine performance a lot better, new interior, that kind of stuff. But it's interesting. CPI inflation calculator says in 2016, $36,000, which was the prior price of the double cab TRD off road,
Mhm.
was 36,000. In today's money, that's 46,751, and the double cab starts at 41.5. So I'm trying to figure out what it was new, the new like a new 2020 2016, what the price was, because I'd be curious with inflation if that's gone up or gone down in overall price. Oh, here we go. There's an old press release. So I'm just kind of curious about like what does it has it really done, and what has inflation done? Because we tend to look at stuff and go. I had a guy that was like, he goes, "You're wrong. The best Toyota truck was uh, the two GDR or SR whatever the engine was." I had to look it up. The thing was built in 1988. And I'm like, okay, what are we comparing here? Are we comparing the truck you bought in 2008? Are we like, I had a guy, and I didn't like the comment. People got upset. I just thought it was funny. This guy wanted to know if they fixed the problem in his 2000. He had a 2001 Tacoma. Wanted to know if 2023 fixed the problem. I'm like,
Oh, I
it's
remember
been
you telling me
20
about
years.
this.
It's been 20 years. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like 20 years. So, all right, here we go. The MSRP for a two-wheel drive SR access cab is 6-speed automatic transmission is 23,003. The 6-speed automatic transmission for a double cab limited is 34,745. So 34,745 double cab limited. 34 for, let's see, 34 was it? What did I say? 745. So then, what is a 2023 Toyota Tacoma double cab limited?
Pardon my dog there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's going on there? Price. I want to say it's 50. Let's see. I will find it, but I want to. I'll do this while you can keep talking. I'll be busy. I think. Let's see. There it is. Price point, spec chart. Because I'm just really curious how much it has changed. And, I mean, I'd argue that 2016, 2023, 7 years, we've had quite a bit of difference in, it's at the bottom, come on, quite a difference in interior performance, all that kind of stuff. So a limited double cab is 52,100. So I'll put it in my CPI calculator. Oh, here we go. So 34,745 in 2016. Same buying power, it'd be 45,121 in today's market. And today's price is 52,100. So we're talking a difference of $6,000. So now the double cab limited is 6,000 more than the 2016 limited is what it really turns out to be. And I would argue that 6,000 is, you could probably see part of it in the truck with the new changes and the performance, and I said the new technology, mandatory backup cameras. I don't know 2016 if backup cameras are mandatory. I don't know how many airbags are mandatory. A lot of times, one of my dad's sayings was always at GM for years. People were always talking about how expensive trucks were gotten, and that was like 1992. People were talking about how expensive trucks have gotten, right? And he goes, well, part of the problem here is mandatory safety equipment. And so the government says, hey, we have to have mandatory backup cameras. Every truck's got a backup camera. Well, automakers aren't just absorbing that cost. They just pass that cost off to the consumer, right?
Much like the UAW problems right now. You're about to see a price increase for that.
Right. Well, and the IHS, Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, which is not a government agency, it's a nonprofit. They'll go do a test where they'll say, we're going to crush front end of frontal crash testing. And so automakers weld in these bars and these frames to keep the wheels from going inside the cabin. Well, more welding, more parts, more it goes to the consumer, right? So, it's one of those things where we're at in this marketplace where as the IHS does stuff and automakers want that 5-star safety crash testing. And if you don't think that high crash or safety testing matters, it's huge. It's huge. People search for safest trucks all the time. The videos always do amazing. People want a safe truck. And so if you start doing those testing, you start doing mandatory backup cameras, start doing more airbags, start doing, more anti-lock brake systems and more pedestrian alert detections and automatic emergency braking, and you improve all this stuff. I mean, it eventually adds up.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't think people are just ever going to understand though. I do think though that we've seen a massive, for one, where you get a lot more features in a truck. Used to be, I remember the days you could buy a C10 Chevrolet with no bumpers. That was an option. Radios, those were all options. And now people want that standard. They want power windows, all this stuff standard. And there's a cost increase. And somebody commented earlier and said, manual windows would be more expensive now. And they would be, because they don't put those in all the time. So it's just cheaper manufacturing of the unit itself just to build a power, motored window and be done with it.
This is funny. This is so 2016, standard on all Toyota models is a star safety system, which includes vehicle stability control, traction control, anti-lock braking system, electronic brake force distribution, brake assist, smart stop brake override technology. And then they're talking about they have 3-point seat belts for all positions, driver and front passenger advanced airbag system, driver and front passenger knee bags, and front and rear roll sensing side curtain airbags. And then they have additional safety features include a tire pressure monitor system with individual tire location on most grades. And that's it. And that stuff now, what I just read to you doesn't even make today's press release. Because today's press release, and I'll look it up, today's press release is like even a lot more detailed as far as safety stuff in here. And let me just fold it because I think it's interesting to look at this stuff. Like, what was safer? Well, yeah, the new truck's a lot safer too. Let me see. Let me scroll down. Safety. And people will say, "Well, I don't want all that stuff. I don't need all that junk. You just need this." I'm like, "Well, if you've never done it, you never tried it." Like I almost destroyed my Tundra when I first bought it. I almost took it in the wall outside of Dallas, and luckily the truck saved me. I mean, it really was. I mean, I was
How
hungry,
embarrassing would that
looking.
have been?
Well, it was all my fault too. I was hungry, looking around for food. I was in a strange place on a highway at night. Didn't know, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
by myself. It was a total byproduct of just the entire circumstance. I look up and the road had turned, and I didn't know it turned. Okay, here we go. Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 standard on all Tacomas. Now, this includes new system sensors, parking sensors, pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, lane departure alert with steering assist, full speed range dynamic radar cruise control, lane tracing assist, road sign assist, automatic high beams, proactive driving assist, which proactive driving assist is pretty badass. It also includes, let me see, where else is blind spot monitor. You have rear cross traffic alert. You have hill assist, start assist control. Yeah, they don't even talk about seatbelts. They talk about ABS. They don't talk about that at all because, yeah, I mean that it doesn't even come close in today's marketplace.
Well, I owned a 1964 Volkswagen Beetle, and well, I guess it wasn't a Beetle then, but and it came from a local school here. It was one of their school cars, and I got the bill of sale for it. And in 1964, the seatbelt was an option, and they paid. It was like $40 option, and
Yeah.
which in the 60s would have been a lot of money probably for that option, but it
Oh
was
yeah.
an option.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my 62 C10 did not have seatbelts. I had to
Yeah.
bolt them in. I had to drill holes in my floorboard and bolt in, which is just ridiculous. If you've ever like installed seatbelts, you're just like, really? That's it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bolt with a really big nut, and you got big washers, and you bolt it to the really thin floor pan, and that's all you got.
Well, then you hope there's not enough rust for in your case that.
Luckily, we don't rust that much out here, so I didn't have that much rust. But it's a lap belt. Like people are like, "Isn't your C10 cool? If somebody hits it, it just bounces off, and it still doesn't move." I'm like, "No, it hurts." I'm like, what? It doesn't hurt the truck. I'm like, it hurts me. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hurt a lot. Like I'm very cautious when I drive this truck because it's gonna hurt if I get in an accident.
Yes, no doubt. So Tim, because I asked this question in the comments of this video was where do you rank the midsize trucks right now? Where do you've been in all pretty much all of them except the Ranger. Neither one of us have gotten who knows when press is
Right.
for Ranger drives.
Right. But I mean, we've been in them. We just haven't driven
Yeah.
it.
So where would you rank the vehicles right now?
I think they're still pretty close to what the sales results are, right? So I think Tacoma still wins. I think it's probably going to still sell 3-1 versus the competition.
Mhm.
I think the Colorado is going to be up there. The Ford Ranger is going to be below the Colorado. I think the Canyon is actually, to me, for the dollar, I feel like it's a much more solid truck than the Colorado is.
And they
I think
don't
I
sell
said
a ton of them. Canyon, if you ever look at sales of that, it's always amazing to me why they even build it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But when I was in the Canyon, especially the Denali trim and different higher trim levels,
Mhm.
when you basic stuff, when you close the doors, it sounds better. When you drive, it sounds better. I mean, just yeah, it doesn't have the ticking sound. Like the Trail Boss was crazy to me. It ticks and it's direct injection system ticking. And I said to people, I was like, "Does it bother you?" No, oh no, I want to hear my engine. I'm like, this constant ticking is like nails on a chalkboard. I was like, this is just
I don't
driving
want
me
to think
nuts.
of valve. I'm about to throw a valve in the
Well,
truck.
yeah, I mean, all it needed was you could see the spot underneath the hood where they could put on a sound deadener, like a mat or like a
Yeah.
foam piece there, and you could see where they could just bolt it on. But I was really surprised by that. I think you look down the list and you have the Frontier will still do pretty well. I think people still have turboitis, I'm going to call it, and they want that V6, and so I think people can still pay for that. I would love to see the Frontier price come down and be the value driven truck like it used to be.
Yeah.
I
Why
think the
don't
Ridgeline.
Nissan ever lean into that though? Why they have a perfect chance in an ad to
I
lean in
know,
to go, hey, no turbos here. Now they will eventually. We know they're going turbo,
right?
but they've I said that about the Titan when the pandemic hit and you couldn't get a full size truck. They had the perfect honor to introduce the United States to their truck, and they never leaned into it.
No, I don't know. The Nissan right now is just confusing. And I think the Ridgeline will continue to sell. I think there's a certain customer that
Mhm.
just wants that SUV
Much
like
like
truck experience.
Toyota, there's a Honda loyalist crowd that
Yeah,
if they need a truck, that's what they want.
and I think we're seeing Honda sales will increase incrementally, maybe like 500 more a quarter, maybe 1,000 more a year, 2,000 more a year. I
Yeah.
mean, people look around and they just they there's I know I have a lot of people that they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, first time buying a truck. They don't want a truck. They want something utility and so the
Yeah.
Ridgeline is the perfect size for that. They can't get the Maverick, and maybe the
Or
Maverick doesn't fit for them,
what's
or
the
the
Hyundai? Is
Hyundai
it?
Santa Cruz. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you see Ridgeline stuff do pretty well with that. I think the Gladiator is going to be the one thing that's going to be really interesting to watch. The Gladiator got the updated, screen. We got the new interior, the Wrangler-ish interior, but we lost the diesel powertrain. The Pentastar is not so hot. There is rumors there'll be a 4xe version of that, which I don't know that. I'm still kind of 50-50 on the 4xe versions of these Wranglers and these Gladiators. It'll be interesting because when it first came out, I remember it was with Mike Whalen, who's with CNBC now, and him and I were talking in the shuttle ride over to do the first launch for the Gladiator, and he goes, "This is gonna be a one generation vehicle. Like it's not gonna last more than one generation." And I don't think he was wrong, because at the time it was kind of, you got to remember the Jeep Gladiator was actually being built previously by an aftermarket company. What's
Mhm.
AEV? AEV was doing a Jeep Gladiator. I mean, they
Yeah.
took a Wrangler and put a bed on it, and it was expensive and it wasn't very hot seller. And then the Jeep Gladiator came out, and I think people bought them, but I just wonder how big the marketplace is, because with the Gladiator, you have to love Jeeps. You have to love the seating position. You have to love the roughness to it. You have to, I mean, you got it sit up like this, and you gotta love the Jeep, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you have to love the brand, because the Jeep Wrangler as an SUV is terrible. As an off-road vehicle, it's awesome, right? So, but you have to be that Jeep person. You have to understand they're expensive to buy. They're expensive to maintain. You just have to be that person. And I don't know how big the Jeep Gladiator marketplace is. We've seen that the sales have kind of come down a little bit. It's been a pretty steady addition to the lineup, but Jeep just changed CEOs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to keep the Jeep Gladiator around. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And then with the rumors of a Ram Dakota coming out, I said I don't think Stellantis can afford to have a Ram midsize truck and a Jeep midsize truck.
It would be
I don't think
confusing
they
on
have the.
sales lots. It really would be, because you do see a lot of, with the Stellantis brands, you do see them like to cram every brand into one dealership, it seems like, and
And
that
they
would be very
remember,
confusing.
right? Remember they came out a couple years ago. It might have been like 6-7 years ago now, and they're like, we're going to make very different brands. Dodge is going to be muscle cars. Chrysler is going to be still alive. Ram's going to be just trucks, and Jeep's going to be just Jeeps, right? I mean, so they
Yeah.
really tried hard to. They're trying hard to make the brands different. So if they have a Ram truck and a Jeep truck, are they competing against each other? And I don't know that the Jeep is going to be Jill points out the Jeep Gladiator could be bigger and off-roady, and the Ram midsize could be a smaller fit in your garage kind of vehicle, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, it could be a whole different thing, but I just don't think Stellantis has enough um, sales volume in the North American market to have two midsize trucks.
Yeah, they've there's two companies that are always a mess. It's them and Nissan are
And you got
always
to
a
remember
mess
that.
of.
Well, Stellantis is a third of the size of the company that GM is,
Yeah.
right? So GM can have a Canyon in Colorado because they're a massive company. Stellantis in the truck market isn't that big.
When they would like to pull, they would honestly, it's a European company now. People need to forget that the Ram brand is not an American brand anymore. And I'm not crapping on it. It's not an American brand anymore.
Yeah.
And they would love to pull everything out of America. They don't like the labor costs here. They think it's very expensive. And it's evident when they were trying to close a plant, and the UAW was like, whoa, guys, you're not going to do that so fast. And then they had to quickly jump. Oh no, we'll build something new here. And oh, we got this Ram thing. Hey, we'll just throw it over here. But no, that brand, I don't see the Gladiator lasting either. And I owned one. I had one for 2 years, and it was no quality issues. I have to say, Ram or Wrangler, all Jeep stuff, they're generally some quality issues. Never had the first bit of problem with mine. Road Great did pretty well fuel economy for being a big brick on wheels. But no, you're right. It drove like an old school truck.
Yeah.
You're going to bounce around in it. It's not comfortable. If you've never driven a straight axled front vehicle, they wander all over the road. You have to, I always say, you participate in driving. Most independent front suspension trucks, you can just keep your pinkies on the wheel and it's going to track straight.
Right.
Not that vehicle. It's going to be all over the road. You have to pay attention.
And
But
the thing is, I love it. I'm not saying I'm
yeah,
negative towards it. I'm just saying
I
I
like
think there's a
options.
certain, yeah, I think there's a certain buyer for it. I think that's certain. I don't know how big the marketplace is for that buyer. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
I do. I love options, which is amazing to me why people crap on this thing so much. And I know you do not like it, which is
No.
fine. I mean, there's a vehicle for everybody. But the Gladiator is a good segue into this because they're different from their normal segment. You know, the Gladiator doesn't toe the line of midsize trucks. It's its own thing, though it is a midsize truck. This is I don't know if this is a full size truck, a midsize truck. It's narrow, it's
It's a
long.
tweener. Yeah, it's it's
Yeah,
it's it's just a it's a weird size. 18 foot 6 inches means it's not going to fit in garages, which I
yeah.
think is pretty interesting. Because I mean, the
It's gonna fit
buyers.
under solar panels.
Well, yeah, and it's going to be so glaring, and it's going to be tough to clean. It's been what I've been a couple things I think is interesting is number one, my friend Kyle Conover at Autospec Studios did a video, and I've actually been watching more videos on this truck, this vehicle thing,
Well,
whatever.
if we don't pay attention to it, it's gonna bite
Yeah,
us in the
no,
ass.
and I have, and he pointed out, he goes, "Oh yeah," he goes, "You can polish this." I'm like, "It's like a refrigerator. They make special polish for refrigerators." I
And
mean,
you know
yeah,
how much
and
I
then
do that on mine?
yeah,
Not often.
right. But I mean, I do mine. I polish because the kids are always putting their fingers on it.
Mhm.
Another thing that pointed out was Marcus Brownlee pointed this out, where the door latch is next to the window. When you pop it open, you tend to grab the stainless steel and open it like this.
Yeah, put your hands on it. Yeah.
And so you're gonna have finger. This thing's can always look kind of nasty with that. So I'm confused by that because I think this customer really wants to look really cool. I would think they want to take care of it. And so it doesn't fit in garages. It's pretty hard to clean and keep looking good. The charging panel, the charging inlet, is in the rear corner panel. It's I don't know if you
Nope.
got it. It's no, yeah, it's like right back. Yeah, it's right back in there. Which, as he pointed out, that means you have to back in to most Tesla charging stations,
Yeah.
and so you can't pull in because the cord's not long enough for these
I
to come
have
around.
heard though that Teslas they have a new generation charger coming
They
with a
are
longer
working on this,
cable.
right, with a longer wire, but it also means if you're towing anything, you have to unhook your load and then drive in and back in.
Well, you know, TFL found that out real quick when they were doing their towing tests
Right.
with the stuff that they couldn't literally tow anything and go charge.
But you would think that Tesla may have saw those videos and said, "Oh, we need to put the charger in the front so you can pull in and back out." But no, you can't do that. So I thought that was kind of interesting placement for that. Also,
Well, part of that might be that they're not a truck company. They don't know they're young to trucks.
right. Well, the other thing too, people talk about, well, it's a 48-volt electrical system. Isn't that awesome? Okay, and they think it's awesome that they finally Tesla's moving the industry to 48-volt systems, and I'm like, so it's a lot more computers. I
Yeah,
mean,
but they've been trying to that's not just Tesla though. They've been trying to do I remember reading stories 20 years ago
yeah,
with
they've been trying to
with
do it for years, and
yeah,
so
but
people are
maybe
so well. The thing is that people I've talked to are like so excited about this first time we have a 48-volt system, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy a vehicle because the first time we had a 48-volt system, like it does.
that wasn't the sales pitch.
Yeah,
2
I'm like,
batteries.
okay, like, and then they're like, hey, it charged an 800-volt system, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, and then they say, well, that system actually doesn't exist right now, or it's not coming out yet. It's going to come out
Yeah.
in the future. I'm like, okay, so 48-volt system inside the vehicle for electrical power that to me is not really a selling point. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. And then you have an 800-volt charging system that's supercharger coming that's not here yet.
Yeah.
90% of the customers charge at home. So 800-volt doesn't really matter to them because they're charging at home anyways. And if you're
Do 9
towing a
so
lot, you
so
got
do
to,
90% of the customers charge at home because I know
yeah.
following Jill's saga with
Oh,
her
yeah.
issues with
Yeah.
charging, and I see this a lot that I don't think people understand the convenience of a home charger with EVs. I really don't. I just think they're so used to going to a gas station.
Right. Right. No, I mean, if you don't have a charger at home, EV is going to be not a
Yes.
great lifestyle for you. I mean,
Yes.
most people they've done studies on this. I have a home charger. Most people that in my area that have Teslas have home chargers because you can't. I mean, you have to have that setup. And so
Mhm.
if you're only charging on road trips or occasionally, say you have an apartment dweller, you have to go charge there. That's fine. 800 volts not going to matter to you because you don't have the charging system yet. So
Well, your
I
home's
got
not
okay.
even set up for
I
half
got
that.
well, then the other thing was like it tows 11,000 pounds. Isn't that awesome? I'm like, a couple things here. First of all, uh, 11,000 pounds, it could tow 40,000 pounds. There's no J2807 standard on electric vehicles. So
Yeah.
you can put up whatever number you want. You can say it's going to tow whatever. The second thing that I have an issue with is how far. That's always the question, right? So 11,000 pounds, great, but how far? Third question is, and you know this, a bumper pull camper and bumper pull things. What's 11,000 pounds in a bumper pull?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. A camper weighs about 7,000 pounds. That's a really 28-foot long camper. If you went longer than that and did a whole fifth wheel camper, you'd have so much wind disturbance and you'd have so much profile of the camper, the truck would be all over the road because you don't
Well,
want to do
see,
that.
I don't look at Tesla though as a car company. They are a
Right.
scientific company in my eyes that they're pushing they're, much like what SpaceX does versus NASA, they're pushing the industry forward in many ways without caring how many they really sell. And I do see this, and I'm not a Elon Kool-Aid guy. Like I think he's done wonders, and I think he's also, you know, disturbed things that he probably shouldn't have. But I don't see Tesla like this as a truck. I've seen him get a lot of heat about this truck. I don't care. I did a video on it yesterday. It's not for me. I find it fascinating. I'm never going to buy one of these because I'm never buying an EV truck till you really give me 600-700 mile range, and then I might be interested in it. Because like you were saying with towing, just because I think they missed the mark on this one. They said 500 miles of towing, which that's a very Tesla thing too. I've seen so much shit about this of, oh, they missed the mark. Well, Tesla throws out things, benchmarks for them. If they don't meet it, they just shrug their shoulders and move
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
The industry
It's now 350 miles. Was it 300 miles? Or I mean,
360, I think, is the
right.
big
Well,
one. But
I just look at again. I'm just pointing out that the big,
yeah.
marketing ploy and stuff reasons. Go back one more thing because I want to point out something too. The rearview mirror,
Oh,
the interior photo, yeah, the rearview
yeah.
mirror, it's not usable.
Well, it's much like the HD camera
No, no,
or
no,
screens, right?
no. The camera mirror is actually in the
In the
instrument
dash,
panel,
right?
in the
Yeah.
dash. What I'm saying here is when you drop that tonneau cover, you
Oh, yeah.
you can't see out the back anyway, so the mirror's useless. So you always look at the screen. I also want to say something too. People are like, "Well, hey, the tonneau cover is powered. It's powered covered lockable storage." People have been demanding that for years, and finally Tesla did it. We've had that for years. Like my dad, you can go buy a retractable tonneau cover and the bed's locked. The bed tailgate locks. You
Yeah.
can go buy a hard cover with a key. I mean, so like I don't. Again, I'm mystified by the people that I've talked to, the EV advocates, who are just like, "Oh my god, we finally have lockable rear storage." I'm like, we've had that. Like this is again, it's nothing new to me.
I'm amazed though in our industry, man, how many in the back pages that people don't get to see the chatter, how many people are crapping on this thing though in our industry. Because for one, I think politically they've turned on Tesla a little bit because their guy
He's a
changed what his
jerk. I
opinions
mean,
of things.
he brought his personality out finally, and
Yeah.
now we're like, wow, he's not that great of a person.
Yeah, he's just a normal freaking human being. But two, I think there's that why the industry's turning on him. And two, like I said, they're not a car company. I don't even think they claim to be a car company, really. They are just people that throw technology out. If it works, it works. Will this truck be around in 10 years? Probably not. But guess what? It's a case study for them. You can't hide from it. They had 1 million pre-orders. Now, we all know pre-orders, they'll probably get, if they got
Dude, I
half
mean,
of it, they'd be
I
lucky to
don't
get half of
pre-orders
those.
never do anything for me. People always want
No,
to talk
but
about the big
it is,
number.
every manufacturer loves bragging about it.
I have 2 pre-orders, and they're
Oh,
both
I have
ridiculous.
I have several.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and so then each brand counts as a unique pre-order.
No, but the industry loves, once Tesla started doing this $100 pre-order stuff,
Oh,
guess
yeah.
what? Nobody else did that till Tesla did it.
Well, the thing
And
is, we can't
they
fact check it either.
no, but you can't with any of them. You know how
I know.
many Silverado EVs pre-ordered? How many Hummers? And they've
Yeah,
only
and
built,
you
I
talk to them,
think,
they're like, "We're hoping
less
to
than
convert 15% into actual sales."
less than 300 or 3,000 Hummers have been built
Well,
since September of 21.
look at the Lightning. I mean, the Lightning is sitting up on dealer lots.
Oh, I talk to Ford
Si
dealers every day, and they are not happy about that thing.
They're sitting and sitting and sitting, but hey, they had all those hundreds of thousands of pre-orders.
Mhm. But I think for this vehicle, though, the way they're casting all these parts now, the way they're stamping is completely different than anybody in the industry, and I think they're pushing the industry forward, whether the industry wants to admit it or not. The big three are the big three, and they are not going to change unless they have to. And I think brands
Yeah.
like Tesla, maybe Rivian to an extent, are pushing the industry forward where it's been stuck for a while.
And I don't mind that. I like that viewpoint Tesla has. Love putting the industry forward. I just don't think this is pushing anything forward. I think this is a step backward. The panels, actually, Elon said in that delivery event, they can't even stamp them because
Yeah,
it won't hold the stamp. And so they have
right.
to, each panel's got to be individually made and built. I mean, so you're talking like the expense is insane on this. And for me, when I was watching people get into this thing, they had so many problems. That A-pillar and the way the doors open, and the front doors, they had to duck and dive trying to get in. And I'm like, okay, well, that's going to get old after a while. I know from having Tacomas and such, but I just don't think it's pushing. I don't know that this pushes the industry forward in any way. The
I
interior,
think
to me, I've
I
never
think
liked
what
Tesla
it
interiors.
does where you don't see it. I don't think the design of it does. No, I don't. I'm not saying that. I think the technology that makes this thing go, it's completely steer by wire now. First vehicle that's completely steer by wire. The
Right?
industry's wanted to do that forever, but nobody's had the balls to completely do it.
Yeah,
Just like
Toyota
the
was good.
Haggerty video said, steer by wire has been in airplanes since the 80s. It's not new
Right.
technology. The industry
Right.
just won't do it.
Right. But Toyota's had it. I mean, Toyota's putting it out. They
Not
just
steer
delayed
by
it by a year.
wire.
Yeah.
They've
No,
all they're all
they were going to launch this year. Delayed it by a year.
okay, but they all have done drive by wire of like pedals and stuff. That's not new
Right.
technology. But the battery packs that are in this are all developed in house, which I like. I hate the fact that GM and all these. Well, we got to partner with Panasonic. We got to partner with these people because they don't want to throw the money at the problem. Where Tesla, and once again, I'm not a Tesla fanboy. I'm just kind of being devil's advocate here. Tesla does almost everything in house, so eventually they will push the industry to a better spot. Now, like I said, this thing is not going to be a home run sales for the company. I don't think they care. They sell enough of the cars now. They just don't care. And even at the cars, they really, I don't know that they really ever stood out to be, hey, we want to be the number one sales of small cars now.
No, and they've always made a lot more money by selling the credits than they have cars. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
documented that most of their revenue comes from selling credits. And so their car sales actually slowed down. They actually, you know, it's funny. Somebody, I think Jason Kamisma said this on his video, and Haggerty says, Tesla's moving the marketplace. Even when things get more expensive, they cut costs. And I was like, yeah, they made their cars cheaper, but also understand sales were slowing.
Yeah.
So sales slow down. They cut pricing to sell more cars. So I was mystified by some of these comments, and I'm not shitting on him. I liked his video a lot. There's some really interesting viewpoints, and so
Yeah.
and for me, I don't understand this vehicle at all. Like I really don't, and so I watched lots of videos. I purposely made myself watch some videos the other day just because I didn't even know this thing had cup holders. I'm like, I didn't know if what the windshield wiper was. It's now like a 4-foot windshield wiper
Yeah.
that's
That's a
got
joke.
like two windshield wiper things together that's double bladed apparently. And I'm like, it just looks. I don't know. I mean, maybe we need Why do you need two windshield wipers? I was like, huh. Maybe what? Why don't we do the? Why don't we do like the guys that clean windows? Do one that goes across like,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we could do that too, right? So I don't know. It's very interesting. Do we need door handles?
See, you're making my case for this vehicle. It's a case study.
Right,
It
and I think we
it
need door handles. So I'm like,
yeah,
I just,
I'm not one for the we need to get rid of door handles thing, man. And of course with Tesla, use your little credit card thing. That's how you start it. That's how you
yeah,
get into the vehicle. That's the key of the vehicle. And that could be a whole nother debate on that. But Tim, I really do think that this little thing, once again, I would never own this. I would
mhm.
love to do a press driving one. I think it would be fascinating. I think the views would be nuts for my channel. But I would like to see, is it comfortable? I mean, I've been in their cars. Their cars are very comfortable, man. And you cannot say that their cars aren't safe. They're the safest in the industry. Their cars for impacts, they always get high ratings. This truck's they've already started crash testing it, and the ratings are pretty through the roof for this thing for safety. Now, once again, electric vehicles sometimes like this. Can you imagine taking this to a body shop to be repaired? This is a specific vehicle where you're going to have to go to some Tesla place and they repair it.
I don't think you can. I don't think it's repairable.
Maybe not, and which might be a story in that is how repairable is this vehicle?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's repairable. I don't. Yeah, I think it's not repairable, and if you're gonna have to, because I think you're gonna just take the panels off and replace the panels
Yeah.
if
Well,
you
and
can.
maybe that's cheaper though in the long run.
Well, yeah, Ford did that, but I mean, it's
Oh, my Bronco, you can take all the panels off quickly.
yeah. But I was talking to body shop guys, and they're just like, they've been doing that for years, anyways. Like
Yeah.
when my Silverado had hail damage. they didn't fix it. They just replaced the panels. You know,
Okay.
I mean,
Who goes
there's no,
camping and takes candles?
well, yeah, but I mean, jeez.
I just noticed that. Sorry.
Yeah, those are like really well done candles too.
Yeah, I was
And
like, this is not if somebody's ever been camping. Look, they're on these
no,
hard rocks with these little. This poor girl in this photo is like, please get me off these rocks.
well,
This
where's the
hurts.
fire pit? There's no, they're
Well,
keeping
there's a
warm by
futuristic
candle.
fire pit. It's right here. Look, they got fishing poles too.
Oh, I see it now too. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Why
stainless
is the
steel
fire?
too.
Well, wait. Why is the fire pit so far away from them?
Well, why they got jackets? Look at these futuristic jackets, man. They're all right.
This is Mars. Like, I
Yeah,
don't.
look at the poor girl's face. She's like, this hurts so bad. Can we take the photo, please?
Is that a do with a man bun?
Of course, man. That's their buying audience.
I hate man buns.
Taillights. This poor truck has gotten crapped on for taillights too, which trips me out. I'm like, and taillights is the new like it thing for vehicles. If you noticed, I forget what Hyundai or I've seen some spy photos of. They're real low, and they're like, oh my god, they're changing the industry. And you're like, they have to be a certain height. Let's not act like in the United States it's different than Europe, but there is a certain height they have to be.
Yeah, I don't.
But
You
you
know,
get these two little kind of lights.
yeah, it reminds me of my C10. I'm adding another LED light bar, and because more lights, stop lights back there. But
Yeah,
yeah, and then they're talking about how you can charge another vehicle with this, and they're like, you can charge your house with this. I'm like,
you do that with Ford.
but yeah, and I'm like, but do you want to? Like, if I'm taking my EV and charging my house, that's draining the EV. So what happens?
Yeah.
An EV stops and the house stops.
You get in
Like,
your gas powered car and leave.
I'm trying to figure out like why would you do that? Like you're somehow counting on the power to come back, and that's I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I did with the power boost Ford I had because I have a gas engine, and it burned so little fuel. It didn't really matter if I had it going or not. So, and
I know
most generators are now natural gas generators, so they can run when the power's out.
Yeah.
So
I watched you watched the Marcus Brownlee video. Did you see where he took these hubcaps off and he got dirt on his hand? He was like it just freaked him out that his hands got dirty. I was like, it's a truck, dude. You're gonna do dirty things with the truck. He goes, I'll never.
I saw him take them off the aero covers, and okay, I'm like, you're gonna have
The
them. They look
hubcap.
different. People
Cool.
love them, but I'm like,
No,
they're
but it's
hubcaps.
like clearly you're a young dude, never seen a hubcap before. Like this is fascinating tech.
No, I'm like, it's a hubcap, dude. Like I just thought that was funny too. Somebody said, oh, it's like 17 inches of ground clearance because Elon said because it doesn't have a rear differential like most trucks have. It's an electric truck. Like I guess that's one of my beefs with his delivery event was he kept comparing the Cybertruck to gas trucks.
Yes.
And I'm like, nobody cross shopped gas electric.
Not yet. I think they will, but yeah, no, not yet. And then they've taken a lot of heat for their website about the price of the actual price versus the tax credit plus gas savings. Right. I'm like, who in marketing thought of that one? Like,
yeah.
I understand you can do the tax credit part, but who? Another $3,000 because that's what you would have spent on fuel. You're like, what?
Yeah, no, it was weird. Like,
I just hope they make a small pickup of this, just so it pisses you off.
Well, the thing is, like, people, like Ridgeline too. People are like, you need to be mad about this. I'm like, it's a Cybertruck. Like, it's not for me. Like, and I'm gonna do an interview with the guy from Motor Trend next week, and he was even saying in the behind the scenes on this that they did all this. They did all these imageries, marketing about the truck people they're going towards, and he's like, you don't understand trucks at all. Like, it just became clear, and it became clear to me too when I was watching the delivery event. When I was watching the details came out, like it's not for me. They did not build this for a truck guy because it's not for me.
Well, that was my point to all the auto journalists bitching behind the scenes about this thing. I think if we could go back in 19, the same people were all loving this truck, and now politically they've all whatever. But I guarantee that if Tesla was like, hey, we will give you one for a year, none of them's turning it down. These same people that bitch about it I wouldn't turn one down. If they're like, hey, would you beta test this? You're damn right I would.
I'm just trying to understand it better. And so there's a viewer who's got a reservation in Seattle, and he keeps offering me to come up there. As soon as he gets one, I may hop on a plane and go up there because I'm just really curious. I'm not curious about how it drives. I know it's an EV. It's gonna be fast. Okay, 4-wheel steering, like the Hummer. Okay,
Mm.
I can crab walk with it. Okay, great. You know, that's what that is, right? The interior is gonna be very Spartan because it's a Tesla, and I don't love Tesla's interiors because it's very Spartan.
Right.
Everything's gonna be through the IP, which I don't love either, because what happens when the IP busts or something happens? You lose a lot of control. I don't love that either. So, um, it's got adaptive air suspension. So does my truck. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, so I want to know, as a journalist, I want to know where and what the appeal is, so I can understand where the customer's coming from, and I want to go up there and just ride with him, not because I want to be in a truck or drive a truck, whatever, but more so I want to interview him on his buying reasons and why, because the
Mhm.
why to me is fascinating, and that's why I was saying earlier,
Is it
where
like a
like,
train wreck to you? Is that what's fascinating? It's like, why, you know how you drive by a car crash and people just stare and that's why
right,
traffic goes
right.
slow?
Oh, well, what
Is
happened
it
over
is it
there?
like that to you though, of the fascination of like that caveman of us of why would man make fire? You know?
No, I mean, for me, I'm just still I'm a journalist to a fault, and I want to
Sure.
understand my viewer, and I want to understand what their buying reasons are, and that's why I started watching lots of video, because I wasn't getting it, so I want to make sure that I understand it, and now I think I understand it better, right? So
Mhm.
the idea here is styling doesn't matter; it's different from everything else. That the performance is the big deal. They want to go as fast as a 911. They want to pull more than a 1-ton Super Duty diesel. They want to have those bragging rights, and then they want everything to be different. They want things to be futuristic. They want to buy the future now,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm getting from these customers.
People have
It's
always said they wanted the concept to be able to buy a lot of the old concept cars. They wanted to buy those and, you know, it was just a look into the future. Well, they built their concept vehicle to buy.
right, but I mean, but yeah, yeah, that's frankly quite true. It's like, and again, that's why I want to know. I want to know what the philosophy here is behind this consumer and what the buying reasons are, and I want to
Sure.
understand that person.
I think ultimately it's not a truck buyer. It's a person that wants to buy, you know, there's early adapters. Ford's seen it with the Lightning. There was a lot of early adapters that bought those, teased Ford into wanting to really mass produce these
Yeah,
things. Oh, we're going to have 2 plants. We're going to have all these battery plants. And now they're rethinking that. I think Tesla will see that. I think there'll be hundreds of early adopters. And then of course, Tesla, I don't even think they really release sales numbers quarterly, do they?
not
They just
really.
sort of, when they want to, release numbers.
Yeah,
But I think ultimately, yeah, it's just a design concept for them. I think down the road it will prove that hey, maybe they need to do like Rivian, build more of a smaller truck looking thing. But
I don't get
I
it
give it
because
to them for trying.
the Model S looks pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
The Model, Y looks pretty good. Like,
Mhm.
it's such a big departure, it doesn't, and I actually asked my 14-year-old, I said, "What do you think of Cybertruck?" And he goes, "I can't believe they built that thing. It looks terrible." And I'm like, "Okay, so you're 14," and he's all about technology and YouTube and Rocket League and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Because again, when it first came out, I was like, it was, first of all, the initial launch of this thing was insulting the truck guys, and
mhm.
I was so upset with them, the marketing and stuff. It was so, just pissed me
Well,
off.
they got embarrassed. They threw a metal ball into it, and then the glass that wasn't supposed to break broke.
Right. Well, and then Jill and I were talking about. She goes, I said, "Oh, really? A baseball?" She goes, "Well, they did it before." I'm like, "No, no, no. Before it was a steel ball. This time they
Mhm.
threw a baseball at it from Franz, who's throwing like 40 miles an hour, and
Yeah,
didn't hit the glass." And I was like, "Okay, my 1962 will do the same thing with a baseball. You
yeah.
throw a baseball at 40 miles an hour, and it's going to repel off the glass. It's not
I
a big deal."
challenge you to do that, Tim.
Well, I'd love to see myself throw 40 miles an hour. So the other thing too is like, they're like, well, look how bulletproof it is. You know, instead of a normal truck, and actually Tesla has a video out where they show they're firing these bullets at it. They actually take I think it's a Ram or Ford, whatever, and they fire in the Ram or Ford, and the bullets go through the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never once thought about needing a truck that absorbs bullets.
Well, clearly you don't live in Chicago.
Or something, right? Like, is it? I mean, is this the gangster mobile? Like, is this the new thing? I mean, I just was like, I was
You
like,
see
well,
all the gangs now driving Cybertrucks.
right? Because, yeah, because I'm like, I just sat there for a minute. I thought, okay, like, I don't know, and so, is that appealing to people? Are people get appealed because of that? I don't know. It didn't resonate with me as being, oh wow, look at that, because I was like, well, okay, that's weird.
Yeah, it's a little different. One last thing I wanted to talk to you about, Tim, was a viewer of mine sent me this, and Car Coach Reports is reporting that bill just went through the House that they're going to put kill switches into cars, electronic kill switches. Have you heard any of this?
Well, I haven't heard that.
2025.
I haven't.
I'm
I,
curious of your of an opinion of this.
well, uh, the opinion that I would have is every time the government mandates something, it always blows up in their face, right? So, and automakers will fight this back. And I mean, automakers have big lobbies, and it's not going to make it very far.
Supposedly passed.
Really?
I mean, I haven't done. I watched the video on it. You know, I can't remember her name, but she's
Lauren Fix.
Yeah, she's somewhat known. She's legit. It's not some guy or gal in their basement making up news, but that's kind of scary. If it's true that they can shut your car down while you're driving, and
move to act. So there's a move to axe drunk driver kill switch in autos.
Yeah.
So
Well, you sell it as drunk driving. You definitely sell it as that, but it's who's to say an officer can't bing anytime they want?
November 8th, 2023, the measure failed in a late night vote on Tuesday.
Okay. So this video is a little older. It's 2 weeks old video.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the idea here is it's going to have sensors to determine the driver's impaired under the mandate.
Yes.
And there's always a lot
they're already watching your eyes in a lot of vehicles now. So
yeah, there's a lot of fear factor. I mean, but the thing that's interesting that people take out of I don't know context here is they're trying to fight a specific thing, drunk driving. Now the problem with Congress and the problem with government is unintended consequences of bills. So you set up for drunk driving, and now you have more control. Now you can do more stuff than that. You can have cyber attacks that turn on vehicles, and it gets a lot of people out of fear factor.
Right.
I think it's going to be similar to the same sensors they use for kids in the back seats, right? So Chevrolet and a new Tahoe and Suburban have a feature now that you can actually, from your phone, check your back seats. And then they have a sensors in the vehicles now that if even if you don't check your back seats and you have movement, it'll alert you on your phone. So we're doing this because kids are dying, right? So we're going to get that technology to roll out, and now we're going to get more and more of this from that. That's the way things are going to happen. But I'll be curious to see how this gets implemented. I wouldn't be surprised if automakers aren't already doing this, aren't already thinking about how to do this, regardless of what the government says, because they want to make
Tesla can shut your car down.
Right. They want to make it safe. They want to make it safe for the people on the road. I mean, Toyota's goal is zero emissions and zero fatalities. Well, I mean, automakers have that viewpoint because if you start dying in a Dodge car and people start dying, then it's going to be like, oh,
Ford learned that lesson real quick with the Explorer.
Yeah, the Explorer, right? I mean, so it almost killed the brand. It killed that brand. I mean, so they want to have safe vehicles. So we're seeing this technology roll out. We have the Tahoe and Suburban have built-in dash cams that record live accident dash cams. They have built-in. You have to subscribe to the services. They have built-in awareness for inside the cabin. You can check the cabin anytime at night. There's new technology that they'll alert you if your vehicle's being towed away. They'll alert you. I mean, so this isn't something that Congress can think about and say this is the way we want to be, but this is happening, and it's not pushed so much by automakers or by Congress, pushed by automakers. And yeah, I mean, I can see this happening for sure.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you about that, get your opinion on that, because you usually have a pretty common sense opinion on things like that. So I was curious where you were at with that.
And understand that drunk driving. I used to work at American Lung Association. We used to talk about smoking cessation rates, people who smoke, and it's 25% of. I think it's 25% still of adults still smoke, and we still have 25% of people that drive drunk. And no matter, I mean, you can take and make everything driverless, and unless you make everything driverless and autonomous, and you ban cigarettes forever, you'll never get rid of those rates. There's always going to be those people out there that's, I know I'm better than the government does, and I know what I want to do with my body. And my granddaddy smoked until he was 97 years old and never had a problem. I mean, he ate grits and lard and smoked and drank too much every day. I mean, you're always going to have that thing. You're always going to have somebody that's going to fight against it. I was just talking to Jim with a friend. There was an accident in Omaha, and 2 people rolled over, and they actually survived because that seatbelt's on. And I said to him, well, and he knew it. He lives in my area. Seatbelts are optional out here. People don't wear them. And I'm like, so all these automakers are trying to make it so it kill switch in the vehicle to stop drunk driving. Hell, we can't get people to wear seatbelts.
Dude, if
So
they haven't drove a Mustang then, because my Mustang, if you do not put that thing on like within a minute, it doesn't just like ding once or twice. It's just like this panic mode ding of like, all right, car, I'm, I'm
well,
getting to it.
you can buy just the buckle.
Yeah,
You can go to
I'm
Amazon
gonna
and buy
order
just the
one. I
buckle.
don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people do it. They go Amazon or they take an old car, they cut the strap, get the buckle, and they just put the buckle in.
yeah, yeah. People are stupid. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna poke a hole in my airbag either. You know, and that's
Well,
basically what you're doing
yeah,
by
I mean,
not putting
people.
it on.
We had a husband and wife die in I-70 down or I-80 down in Kimball. They rolled over their car and died in an accident, and they were sitting on their seatbelts.
Yeah. Well, don't doubt it at all. Don't. I used to when I was a kid until I got in an accident. I never wore my seatbelt. I got into an accident, put my chest into the steering wheel, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that again. I'll take a little bit of rash on my shoulder over putting my chest into a steering wheel.
Yeah, so I mean, people are freaking out about kill switches, but again, I think I understand too is the average fleet age of the fleet's like 14 years.
Yeah.
So if this gets instituted in 2027 or 2026, you're looking at 2050, 2055 before it becomes mainstream.
Well, I still want to be able to drive in then. Without somebody, there's always good law enforcement, and there's always bad law enforcement, and I don't want to give them the option of shutting my car off if they so want to. But at the same point, if you've seen somebody swerving all over the place, that might be nice as well. So
Right. Yeah. Save a life. I mean, to me, it's like this could save some lives. And so I'm not always opposed to that. It just, again, fear factor in this day and age is so strong. And people just, anything new, they want to freak out. Everything new, they want to hate. Turbos, they want to hate. They want to hate
yeah,
vehicles. I mean, they just do.
I feel like we're getting into that Minority Report movie though. You remember that Tom Cruise
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Agreed.
really
Yeah.
feel like we're really
Yeah.
getting to that point.
And I think we're always going to fight against that. Was it that future that looks like we have no control over stuff. I mean, I remember there was Demolition Man. I mean, it was Stallone. There was all the vehicles drove themselves, right? And
You know what
so,
the 3 shells are for?
right, um, and so I'm just like, when we get to the point where we're all autonomous driving, and nobody drives anymore, and every vehicle is basically the size of a little minivan, I'm out. I'll go find a
Yeah.
different industry to cover because that's going to be the worst. That's going to be boring, and people still love to drive. I think it's the biggest problem automakers driving with EVs is they're like, oh, people actually want sound, so they're starting to make fake engine noise because they
I
have
love the
to.
mufflers. Did you see that at SEMA? There was last year, it happened a little bit at SEMA, but now there's more like MagnaFlow coming out with these fake tailpipes. I'm like, that's just dumb, man.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's just yeah. I mean, that's the way that people still want to hear that driving. I think
I
that's gonna be
understand it for pedestrian safety, far as like the blind. That's
yeah,
why
yeah,
EVs are not completely quiet, is
right.
because
They have
for
to make
that. But
noise. Yeah.
past that, like, I would want the dumbest Jetson sound or something like. You know?
Right? I mean, yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just it's a weird time to be in the industry, and everything's being pushed so fast, but the industry is really slow.
Yep.
You can want to invest all this money in EVs, and they're going to take off all that kind of stuff, but we have the infrastructure for sure, and there's problems throughout, and people just don't want it. And you have slow adoption rates, you have higher pricing. I mean, EVs are expensive, and you have
Yep.
just a slow marketplace. Like there's people I know that will never buy a new vehicle. Well, okay, well if they only buy used vehicles, they only buy a used vehicle every 5 or 10 years. They're 15 years behind. I remember giving my cousins loaned my truck, and I had the Tundra had a little review camera in the mirror,
Mhm.
and they're just like, "Oh my god, that camera's the best thing ever." And I'm like, "It's old school."
Yeah.
But
You remember
again,
the GM ones where they had to just in the mirror, they had the in the
yeah,
middle mirror, it just
yeah,
had that tiny little
yeah,
screen?
yeah.
My
That's what I
dad
had in
thought
the
that was
Tundra. It
amazing.
was like 2013 or 14 or something
Yeah.
like that, and they were blown away by that. And I was like, but then I realized that their newest vehicle was like a 2000, like I think it was 2000 uh, Chevy Trailblazer. I mean, just nothing. So it's like things move slow. And
You
it's gonna
talk
take
about a generation like the boomer generation that is, they don't buy cars like every 3 years like modern audiences do. What a scary if your last car was a '95 Corolla or something and you jump into something today, what that has to be like warp speed to your brain.
oh yeah, right. It's got to be a complete game changer. It's got to be like
Yeah.
holy, yeah. And
And
that's
there's
what I
still
tell
people
people.
like that.
Well, yeah, but if you've never, that's why I keep in all my videos. It's like if you've never been in a new vehicle, you'll be shocked. Like I'm sorry, but the 2016 Tacoma, it's night and day difference than a 2023 Tacoma. It just
I'm
is.
just happy they
Performance,
have a high def screen in it
right?
now.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
performance, the offline speed, the mile per gallon. I mean, everything about it is just the ride comfort, the ride quality. Everything's different. Everything's a lot different. And that's just 7 years.
yep.
Imagine again the guy that had 2000 Tacoma. Want to compare it to 2023 Tacoma? 23 years. 23
Mhm.
years. That's huge in the auto
Well, all I
industry.
want to know is, did they fix the differential? Like that comment you got.
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
Did you announce what you're buying yet?
Yeah, I'm gonna buy a Tacoma.
You're buying which model do you think you're going to get?
Well, so this is the hard part, and this is why I said it in the live stream, and I need to do when I know more details, I'll do more videos on it. But I'm gonna get a double cab TRD off road with the premium package and crushed blue metallic and a
Ooh.
gas version because the hybrid won't come out until the spring or summer next year.
Do you ever see yourself flipping that into the hybrid as soon as you can, or is it just
No,
because I know
because
for you flip trucks quite a bit?
well, yeah, not as often as I probably could, but I don't really want. Anyways, no, I don't. I don't. The people ask me with the same deal with the Tundra. Why
Mhm.
would I get the hybrid Tundra? And I'm like, because there's not that much benefit.
Yeah.
And I know the Tacoma hybrid has more torque on paper, and people want the higher torque number, and they'll say that. But when you get behind the wheel and drive it,
It's always middle grade. They always
yeah,
buy middle grade.
we're not, we're not. And the thing is, like, if you take a Tacoma hybrid off the line versus a Tacoma gas off the line, the hybrid's gonna be faster. But what are we talking about here, folks? Are we talking about like a souped up Mustang versus a go nowhere Mustang? No.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a millisecond on a drag strip. I mean, and here's the deal. Newsflash: when I go out here and make a left, it's 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. So it doesn't matter how fast you go from 0 to 45, because guess what? Still going 45.
Yeah.
I've always said that passing speed is more important to me than offline speed. Like when I'm doing 70 miles an hour on I-80 and I want to get around a semi truck, can I just put my blinker on and go right around them, or do I have to wait and plan it out? That
Yeah.
to me is speed. Offline speed these days doesn't matter. They're all really good.
Well,
I mean,
EVs killed that anyways.
yeah, EVs killed it. Turbo engines are all pretty good. You're not going to feel it. I just don't feel like the hybrid Tacoma is going to be so much night and day better than the gas Tacoma, because the hybrid Tundra wasn't night and day difference better than the gas Tundra.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not that the big deal. So I never want to. I don't feel the need to flip them. I do feel the need to test them side by side. I mean, I'd be interested.
And I don't mean like flip it for profit or anything. I just mean, will you get into the next hybrid to test
Yeah,
that
no,
out?
I mean, and that's I won't do it. And my bitch, and that's also my bitch. It's actually engineering bitch too. Most engineers don't like the way Toyota does business. Toyota engineers don't like Toyota company the way they roll out stuff, because again, your TRD Pro, your Trail Hunter,
Mhm.
they're all delayed.
Yeah.
So here's your Halo vehicles that you're not bringing out because you're not going to do the hybrid system until next year. But no, I think what I'll probably do is I'm probably going to go Tacoma, and I want to see what Ram's doing. I want to see what Rams got me pretty interested in what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I am kind of curious about that. I do have a reservation on one of those, whether I follow through with that one or not. But I'm curious about their whole generator situation they're doing. Supposedly it's not hooked up to the drive line at all.
No, it's complete. It's a series hybrid, which means it's nothing hooked to the drivetrain.
Is
The
it
battery,
confirmed the engine they're putting in that?
yeah, the 3.5 liter Pentastar.
Why would they not just put a small 4-cylinder like that?
Again, yeah, why not go smaller? Because I don't know if they I don't know. It's funny because it's like it's gonna have a V6, and it's like they're really running the power off the battery. They could go even smaller.
Yeah, it's like it's just an extender. And then you know what's going to happen with that? It's for emissions. It's for emissions. But then you're going to find these guys at their Cracker Barrel parking lot with the truck running outside, trying to charge the battery back up, and they're
Yeah.
still putting out emissions.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. People have wanted from one for years. Ram is being stupid. The new CEO, it's just weird the way he rolled it out. In a press release, he's like, it's not a plug-in hybrid. I'm like, but you could plug it in and charge a battery. So like, and he was adamant in this quote, like it's not a plug-in hybrid, but you can do a public charging if you want to. And I'm like, but if you can plug it in, if I can take that truck and plug it in at home, then drive it around with a battery and a gas engine, that is a de facto plug-in hybrid system. That's what it is. Oh yeah, people. Yeah, you'll hear that a lot. And my brother's GMC Canyon been in the shop 4 times.
Hey, my Mustang's in the shop, so, but that's just for some warranty repairs.
Yeah, I mean, I think my Silverado in to get a parking sensor fixed. His Canyon was in the shop because of that stupid software hanging thing going on.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. I talked to GMC about it, and they're like, they did not do a software update. But people are claiming the software update is killing the truck. So I don't know. I never got a straight answer.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden these little trucks are suddenly you can't start them. It's weird.
Yeah. The battery's killing. The battery's dying because it's hanging on a software update overnight. And I talked to GMC, and they're just like, we didn't do anything. We didn't do any
It's
software
funny
updates.
of that because my Bronco is in the shop because we're almost out of warranty with it. So I want to get all the little things that's bothered me looked at. And yeah, they were updating the stereo system or the screen of it because it would freeze every so often. And you couldn't, unless you turn the vehicle off, you could not get the screen to do anything. So we took it in there and they were like, yeah, we got to do like 3 updates to get it to where it needs to be. So we can do that update. I'm like, hey, whatever, man, you guys do your thing. So I get a phone call from my dealership, panic mode of, so we did that update and it fried your center screen. I was like, how? And he's like, dude, it just happens from time to time. And I was like, so they were emergency flying in a screen to fix it. And I was like, man, you can't even fix the problem over here without it screwing up everything else.
That's been my complaint about Consumer Reports, latest report saying pickup reliability is terrible. And when you actually look at what their quotes have been, because trucks have the latest and newest technology, and that's going to make it more reliable. But if you look at your situations and my situations, most often it's not the engine. Most often it's transmission shifting improperly. You need to update the software on that. It's the interior stuff, phone not connecting, screen issues. The Canyon, all the Canyon and Colorado issues overall, not everybody, but a large percentage of those initial buyers were about the infotainment screen crashing and killing the battery. Andre's TFL, he has his Trail Boss, has the same problem. And so what I've said is that new vehicles are more expensive. New vehicles cost more to fix, but typically on a whole statistical basis, it's not the powertrain that's the issue. Typically, it's what's bolted to the powertrain or a sensor on the truck, right? So the Tundra didn't really have a problem with the engine. It had a problem with the turbo wastegate. So it wasn't about the engine. It was about the turbo that was bolted to the engine that had one issue. And it wasn't like every single Tundra big Class X recall coming. They fixed them. Now we are seeing some people having some issues at 60,000 miles. I've seen 4 or 5 people have a bad engine. They've had their engine replaced. And what I'm saying here is statistically, when you add in all the sales, the total amount of sales, and look at the total amount of problems, you're looking at a single-digit percentage. And I would argue,
people with the Bronco, man, there is a 2.7 a good engine. For one, Ford's built that engine forever, but they had 60 during the pandemic built that had valves that were improperly honed or whatever they do and caused early detonation of those engines. But I still see it 2 years later in the comments of like the 2.7, it's a bad engine. I would go with the 2.3. And you're like, they have the same amount of problems with the smaller engines they do with the bigger engines. And it's not even 1% of the engines they put out. You're going to have that.
We did a bunch of we've done research over the years on car complaints and NHTSA.org and different places. We actually find that like in Ford's case, the 5-liter V8 is more unreliable than the 3.5-liter EcoBoost.
Yeah.
Which again, that just pisses people off, and people won't acknowledge that in the comments. They just think it's such a backwards thing. They think I'm wrong because again, I heard my buddy's friend Turbo that whatever happening, and turbos are just 1970s thinking and stuff. It's like I've always said, if you want to find a problem on a vehicle, you'll find it. Just keep looking.
Oh, of course.
Just keep searching. You'll find problems. I mean,
and if you love a vehicle, there's problems in it that you overlook. You're willing to overlook because you love that vehicle so much.
I've had people email me like a whole listing from forums on each truck they're trying to buy and all the problems of those trucks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Okay, like lifter issues. Like GM's got tons of lifter issues right now, and it's terrible. I know tons of people that don't have lifter issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and they're like, "Well, go talk to mechanic. Mechanic will tell you." Mechanic only sees what's broken. Mechanic never sees what's working. I have a
It's
mechanic
like,
that lives in my area. He actually works down in Colorado, and he runs a dealership shop. And he drove by the day and talked to me, and he has a 5.3 and a Silverado, and he goes, "Yeah, I find these things all the time. We're replacing lifters. All these problems are happening in his truck." But he goes, "I must got lucky. I have a good one." And I'm like, "Because you're only looking at repairs. You're not looking at total sales." And
and
I mean, yeah,
overall, negative people or negative problems will get light where happy people don't. They don't.
right,
You don't see people on
yeah.
the internet going, "Hey, I love my vehicle all the time."
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, we have 6 at the dealership with lifter issues." I said, "Okay." I asked him, he couldn't tell me. I said, "Well, how many did you sell that month?" You know, like if you have 6, but over the course of a year, you sold 300 trucks. Well, the math doesn't doesn't equal.
Well, and speaking of math, I've had probably more of your time than I deserve today. But anybody on Tim's channel, come over and check mine out. I do kind of quirky stories like canoe. If you're
Yes,
into weird, quirky brands,
weird.
Tim doesn't understand why I cover it, but people watch it and they're interested in that. And All Terrain Nation over there. If you're on my channel, obviously you know Tim. Tim's on this channel quite a bit, so we always appreciate him. And you guys helped. My son was your 100,000th subscriber.
Yes, thank you
Tim.
for that. Yes, I was gonna
And
send.
I just happened to dawn on me. We were at my dad's house, and I was like, we were texting back and forth with you, and I was like, "Oh man, you're so close. How close?" And you're like, "I only need like 2 more or 1 more." And I told my son, I was like, "Hey, subscribe to his channel real quick." And as soon as he did it, it hit that 100,000. And how often can a person say that they were your 100,000th? And he'll never watch your channel, by the way.
Right, yeah, that's fine.
You're
Maybe
not a
when he gets
gaming
older.
channel.
Maybe
Just
when he
never
has. Yeah, I always find that once you get a house, a family, you're like, "Hey, wait, trucks are actually kind of cool." It seems like there's this point where it's like, I've had so many journalists that tell me, like, "I'll never buy a truck." Then you reach out to me like, "So we want to go camping and we want to go do some stuff, and our 2000 Honda CRV just won't do it. So what do we? I'm like, well, you've been reviewing trucks."
Thank you, Gene.
Yeah, thank you.
People do tend to love when me and Tim BS together. Tim, what's coming up this week for you? Anything fun?
Oh, what is fun?
Jill gonna be in the trunk of a car or anything this week? What's going on, man?
Jill is doing a really interesting drive. She is flying to Seattle on Sunday and Denver on Sunday and driving to Seattle in a Volvo EV.
Oh, that sounds awful.
I know. After her experience in
I know.
Illinois of being stranded for like a 3-hour drive took 6 hours, I'm very curious to see how this drive goes. So that's going on. I have tons of reviews coming. I just have so much stuff going on. And I'll probably do a 2024 full size truck. What the kind of, I hate calling them buyer's guide, but maybe how I see them because people thought a lot of that midsize video I did.
Mhm.
And we have news recap winners. We're doing our giveaways. So we have lots of cool giveaways happening next month. And yeah, again, waiting to buy a Tacoma. Build date was December 7th and it should be shipping out like the 15th or 16th of December from Mexico. And I'm hoping to go to Kansas City to buy it. So what is that? Next week it should be built.
Yep. You're pushing, and I know for tax purposes, when you buy vehicles, you're pushing the envelope on this one, buddy.
I'd love to not, but every year that's the way it turns out the last couple of years. And the
I'm just
Silverado,
hoping that you and TFL show up at the same dealership and y'all can fight over who gets to that vehicle first, because it's always fun. That's the fun of these videos to me, because you've done this for a long time trying to get, it's the game we play, is if you're not first, you're last. And they play that game, and maybe they'll buy like an SR.
yeah, they'll buy. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre sometimes that way it comes up. I try to just stay in my own lane, do my own thing, and whatever they do is what the fans can tell me they did, and I'll get fans that say, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "No, I have to go watch the video because I missed it," because they have 17 channels.
They always do a good job, just like you. It's all about personalities, and I tend to watch your show a little bit more because I think we relate a little bit better. So that is Midsize Trucks. Even though we kind of ended on some full-size talk there, that is Midsize Trucks today, and I appreciate everybody joining in. Once again, come over to my channel, smash that subscribe button for me. Tim's got 100,000. He's got the plaque behind his head now. He doesn't need y'all. I need y'all more than he does, and he dented that plaque, by the way. You're gonna save that story. I want to hear it on your live stream, but I want the story of how Tim Tim Klutzo over there, Butterfingers.
The new one's coming. That's all I gotta say. I actually ordered another one because I was so pissed off.
So whether it be 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, it doesn't matter what you drive. And I'll let Tim take this one out since he's got a show on his end as well.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah. We will see you down the road.
Peace, everybody.